Well, welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. Today I want to highlight some 9.8 comics that I think you should be buying. And I think the timing's right on these ones where, just noticing in the last month or two a bit of a cool down in price on most of these. But, most of these just kind of sell themselves. I think they're really great keys and, ones you absolutely want to consider if you're pretty serious about investing in 9.8 comics. So the first one is a Batman number 6 from the New 52 era in the variant edition, though. Yeah, this variant's got a really cool cover. And, I just think right now this one's probably one to target if you're a big Batman fan. These variants, if the characters kind of take off, the variants end up doing really well and the prices can get super high. So I think right now, the price is kind of high on this one, but probably one that you'd want to take advantage of. I think, it's the first full appearance of the Court of Owls. I think the Court of Owls have a pretty good future in Batman lore. So, I think this variant, while it's somewhat affordable, you kind of want to, get in there probably if you're a big Batman fan. I know I really want this one. I do not have this one. There's a 77 in a 9.8 in the blue label, a 1 is 77. Great collector item, probably really low printed. 45.8% is the 9.8 ratio. So I got a bit of a story on this one. I think it was in 2020, just as kind of the pandemic was getting going. So, things didn't heat up too much. But one of these popped up on eBay in Canada for $250 US. And, I watched it and I kind of wanted this book at the time. But, sucked my thumb for a day or two and it's sold. So I thought that would have been a great price at that time. I think they were in this sort of 250 if you got lucky, up to a little bit over 300 at that time, whereas the first print at that time was like 150 to 175 or so. So recent sale on this variant though in a 9.8, $595. I think if you see an auction pop up, like maybe you get it a little closer to 550, but I think if you're just the biggest Batman fan and maybe you got a bit of a connection to this New 52 era, which just has great art, and the first 6 issues are awesome. I think, I'd probably be willing to pay up to $600 for this one in a 9.8 as well. So, yeah, just one of those variants that I think sticks out, that it's somewhat expensive now, but, these variants can get a little crazy. So I think this one has that potential because, I think the Court of Owls are just really into Batman lore, and they could be even more moving forward. So, probably one of those variants that you want to think about grabbing nowadays. So next one is a Spawn number 1 in the Newsstand edition. Yeah, Spawn 1, first appearance of Spawn in comics pretty much. And you want to go for the Newsstand edition in a Spawn number 1, absolutely. There's just so many of them on the census. 11,084 in a 9.8 in the blue label. 46.2% is the 9.8 ratio. So, so many out there, early 90s books, super heavily printed. Comics were as popular as they ever were in the early 1990s. So you want to go for the Newsstand edition in this one. Recent price, $602. That was kind of the most recent sale on eBay. You might even be able to get in the kind of $550 range on this one. I think this one's, just cooling down a little bit. These early 90s books, there's quite a lot of supply, I would say. So you might want to aim for closer to $550 even, but one did sell for $602 on eBay. And yeah, Spawn always has that potential. I think certainly there's a ton of fans from the early 90s that, that's a positive for sure. But, and we've been hearing for 5 or 6, even longer, about the possible Spawn movie that might come out. So, I don't even want to speculate on that at all. But this one just kind of stand on its own. There's so many Spawn fans out there, and such a nostalgic cover for so many people. So, Spawn number 1 in that Newsstand edition, I think is making sense as it kind of just continually cools down slowly but surely, like most 9.8 comics have since the pandemic in the last 2 years. So yeah, under $600 I think is a pretty great deal on a Spawn 1 Newsstand in a 9.8 right now. Here's one where I've noticed a little weakness more recently, but just a classic key. that's so wantable and kind of a no-brainer for sure. Transformers #1 in the first printing in a 9.8. Yeah, the recent sales price 1,130, and they were kind of kicking around that 1,500 range for a good time, and it was like a little bit earlier where that Transformers movie had come out. A lot of times I don't like to kind of get in there when there's a movie or if there's hype leading up to a movie. But we're on the other side of that now, and I am seeing, lower cooling down prices on this one, and it's a great one. Huge first appearance. Looks great on the Census as well. There's 622 9.8s in the Universal Blue Label, and 10.6% is the 9.8 ratio. So almost getting into the single digits for kind of like a mid-80s book. That's pretty great with that first appearance. Classic cover on this one as well. So yeah, the closer it gets, the closer you can get it to about $1,000. I think it's just a great deal in Transformers #1 in the first printing. Okay, next one, just one of those huge 1980s 9.8s you want to get. Amazing Spider-Man 300 in a 9.8. First full appearance in Origin of Venom. This one slowly but surely continuing to cool down as well. Looks great on the Census for a big first appearance. And I think one you want to take advantage of right now. And similar story to that, the Transformers, where the Venom movies came out and the Let There Be Carnage kind of thing. This one was pretty hot during that time and very hot during the whole pandemic as well. We're on the other side of that now. The prices are cooling down nicely, and it's just a no-brainer. The definition of a 1980s no-brainer 9.8 comic. So there's 1,511 in a 9.8. 5.4% of all graded copies are 9.8. So there's a lot of these graded, but not a lot get the 9.8. Yeah, only 5.4% of them that are sent to CGC get a 9.8. So it's a tough 9.8. Recent prices on at Comic Link, there was a few recent auctions. In an old case, one sold for $3,000, and in the new case, $3,100. So yeah, this is one similar to Transformers, like in the last month or two, just noticing a little bit of a cooler price, whereas, they were probably going for about $3,400 in a nice new case a month or two ago, and now at a $3,100. I think, it's pretty much just one that you can get in there now if you're real serious about your 1980s 9.8 comics. Right around $3,000 for Amazing Spider-Man 300 is one to consider right now, for sure. Okay, so the next one is pretty much like one of the best 1990s 9.8 comics. That's just an absolute no-brainer. Batman Adventures 12 in a 9.8. First appearance of Harley Quinn in comic books. Pretty cool cover. This one looks great on the Census for a 1990s book. Yeah, 1,204 in a 9.8. And 13.8% is the 9.8 ratio, which is really low, and a nice tough 9.8 for a 1990s book. Yeah, the 1980s and 1990s ratios look a little bit different. In the 90s, they don't get as low, but 13.8 when you kind of compare them to in-era books, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's a really tough 9.8 for a 1990s book. Early 90s on this one. 1993, this one came out in. So recent price just cooling down a little bit, $2,143. They were kind of kicking in the $2,400 to $2,600 or so, in the last 6 to 12 months, let's call it. So I think, just cooling down a little bit. This is a really tough 9.8. Certainly if you're a Harley Quinn fan, this is the one to get. And anywhere closer to 2,000, I think, is a really good deal on Batman Adventures #12 in a 9.8 white pages. Okay, last one is a bit of a speculation, but I kind of wanted to add something a little bit that maybe wasn't like a no-brainer. But it's Earth 2 #19 in a 9.8. The first appearance of Val-Zod, Superman. So, DC is just, I don't know what they're doing, but I just think it's almost a crime that they haven't come out with like self-titled Val-Zod books. Like, this book came out in a similar time to Miles Morales, and there's been like a ton of Miles Morales self-titled books, and they've given Miles Morales such a push in the comic books, and now he's in pop culture and all these movies. Whereas Val-Zod, I feel like really cool first appearance in this one. Yeah, I think he's very likable, and they just like acted like he never existed. And there's no Velzad, you know, self-titled book. Like, I don't know what the hell DC is doing, but they're just missing out on a huge opportunity here. But I think, you know, because of that, it keeps this book kind of cheap, and I think it's a really good speculation because, you know, essentially if they sort of, with Superman, you know, did what they did with Spider-Man, with Miles Morales, if they kind of brought in Velzad and gave him a big push, I feel like pop culture would love that, and this book would do so much better in that kind of situation. But I don't know what the hell DC is doing. Yeah, I can't believe they haven't had Velzad in way more books, and yeah, like I said, a self-titled Superman Velzad book is like, I just can't believe they haven't done that. But pretty great collector item on this one. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit lower printed, this Earth 2 19. I'm not too sure. I wasn't really collecting during when this book came out. I'm not too sure how popular it was. But 141 9.8 in the blue label, 42.3% the 9.8 ratio. So a 1 of 141 is a pretty great one. This is one I did overpay for during the pandemic, pretty much. I think I paid like $275 or something like that. But I think right now, I saw one sell for $162. And I think anywhere from $150 to $175 is really making sense on this one right now as a good spec that has some future potential there. Yeah, and like I said, DC just, hopefully, you know, they need to get their act together. This is definitely an opportunity missed, I think, where they should absolutely be pushing Velzad in the comics way more, and then that could lead to a lot of, you know, maybe Velzad being in pop culture. And Marvel did it with Miles Morales. I just don't know why DC's not really doing it with Velzad. Oh, okay, we'll leave it at that though. Just a short list of kind of some no-brainers with the little speck on the end there that I've noticed that are, you know, most of these are just cooling down a little bit, so the timing seems right to, you know, think about grabbing these ones. Okay, thanks so much for watching though. I'll see you on the next one.